All right. Hello again, adventures, and welcome to another exciting episode of Designing New Dragons. Join us as we may be creating your new favorite character in the Power Rangers RPG. So today, so last time we created a level 1 Power Ranger. For me personally, because there isn't a ton of choice in your level 1 Kiki character, and what I mean by that is, as far as the role is concerned, there's not a ton of choices as you get in first level. The thing that really starts making the game customizable is when you start gaining a few levels. So today we are going to build a character, and then we're going to level them up to about level 5. Which again, because this is a 20 level system, level 5, if we go by D&D 5th edition rules, level 5 is generally where you get into tier 2. Level 5 is where at least in D&D, level 5 is where I tend to prefer to start most of my campaigns that don't have mostly new players, just because at that point I don't have to worry about accidentally killing them, and they have enough kind of tools and things like that they can do some cool stuff. So I'm also thinking that for designing new dragons, just building 3 level 1 characters, depending on the system, can get a little bit repetitive, but by trying different things and trying at least one of them to be a leveled up character, you get a significantly better idea of how the game works. So, that being said, let's build a character. Like last time, I am going to stick to the core rulebook for this one. The next video I'm going to do, we are going to be using the new Across the Stars source book to create a Kiki character, but for this one I figured it wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to just stick to the core book, and we can see how the leveling process works in the core book without dealing with all the new stuff that was introduced in Across the Stars. So, like before, we're going to follow the outline that they have here. So let's hop on over. This looks familiar, doesn't it? Oh yeah, we did this before. So we're going to follow the process of we start with an origin, and then we choose a role, and then we choose our influences, and then finalize things. So we're going to start by building a level 1 Kiki character, and then we're going to level them up to 5, and go from there. So the first part of this video, we're going to kind of quote-unquote speed run. Because we've already done this. So, as far as the origin, to give you a quick reminder, in the core book, the origins are athletic, brainy, comedic, curious, cynical, kind, popular, rebellious, and tragic. I am extremely good at creating tragic backstories for most of my characters. So, to force myself to do something a little different, we're not going to choose tragic. Something that I was never when I was in high school, middle school, college, anything. I have never been popular. So just because this will be a completely new experience for me, I want to create a popular character. So we're going to start with the origin being popular. You will be popular. You're gonna be popular. If you have no idea what that is, go watch a stage show. It was everywhere. It was on Broadway for about 1 billion years. So, starting with the popular origin, our starting health is 1. So when you go, boom, we start with 1. And then enhance ability score increase options. We can choose either strength or social. Our last character was a little more social based. So I'm actually okay with this character. We're going to give the boost to strength. And that, in and of itself, is already going to start directing what the character is going to be. You know, if they're popular, and the thing that makes them popular is their strength, well, then obviously they're going to be some sort of physical the thing. And at least in like high school, which is where most of these happen, in high school, the popular strong people are all on sports teams. For those of you that don't know how money works in high schools, at least in the U.S., the things that make schools money is generally going to be sports teams. And the one that tends to be most common across the states is football teams. Football teams make a lot of money, not because they actually make money from running football or anything like that. What they do is boosters, which are basically alumni that decide to donate to the school, because schools are effectively the same as charities. So boosters will donate money to the schools, and they generally do it for the sports teams. In addition to that, concessions can sometimes make a decent amount of money for schools. Excuse me. And then kind of the prestige that sports teams bring to stuff like that, like sports teams in general, specifically football in the U.S., but it can be other ones. One of the high schools that I almost went to, but we moved just before I went there, their hockey team was really, really good. And they actually had their own personal hockey rink on campus that they could use to train and everything, and that's where they'd have their home games and everything like that. That was a big money maker. Yeah, sports teams in general. I'm going to say that this popular kid is not a football player because I'm not a huge fan of football. Not that I think it's a bad game or anything like that. I just find it kind of boring. And this is going to, like, I can already hear people going to their keyboards furiously after I say this statement. So understand this is personal preference. I prefer baseball. Like, I think baseball is a significantly more interesting game to watch. And I know tons and tons of people that think baseball is the most boring thing in the world. And it's just not. I played it for like 5 or 6 years. I used to be really, really into the Brewers, which is the baseball team for Wisconsin. They're not good. They have never been good, but they were my team. And I used to go to games in County Stadium, which doesn't exist anymore. And then the stadium that replaced it used to be called Miller Park, because it was sponsored by Miller Brewing Company, because they're based in Wisconsin, and that's the reason they're called the Brewers, because Milwaukee specifically had tons of breweries. It was one of the largest industries in Milwaukee for decades. It was the reason that Milwaukee got as big as it did, was all the breweries. I can't remember what they call the stadium now, but it's a really nice stadium. Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna say that this is a baseball player. So we've done the skills. So bonus skill levels. You get a following list of skills acquired. So for strength based, we can choose either athletics or intimidation. I don't really want this character to be kind of a very intimidating, kind of aggressive character, especially since at least the baseball players that I knew growing up, they weren't really kind of aggressive or anything like that. Baseball itself is a very much a team sport, which I understand that football technically is a team sport too, but it's a very individualized team sport where each position has a very specific job, and they don't really interact with anyone else on the team during the game. Other than, obviously, the quarterback has to interact with stuff, and if there's an audible or something, you have to be aware of that. But for the most part, you have your very specific job, you do your very specific job, and then you go back and you do it again. Baseball, everybody on the field has to kind of be in touch with everyone else, and for whatever reason, also, you're not like you know, running in and like beating people on a regular basis, which is a prime thing of football. So it might just be that more aggressive people tend to play football than baseball. But my experience with baseball players is they didn't tend to be quite as aggressive. So I don't really want the training to be in intimidation, because that's just not the character I have in mind. That's not to say that baseball players couldn't be bullies, but they just did it differently. There's a lot more manipulation than outright going, I'm gonna beat you up. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that everyone had access to bats that made them not want to pick fights as much. Who knows? So we've got that. Ground movement. Our movement's going to be 30 feet. Easy enough. And then languages. You get native language and one additional language for each 3 points of socials. I think we forgot to add additional languages for my other character. But we're going to start with English, except I can't actually spell English. English. And then if we pick more little languages, we can. So, and then origin benefits. Whenever you're in a position to be recognized as a local social celebrity, you can always consider yourself as having an applicable specialization in deception, persuasion, or streetwise. I do like that. That's pretty cool. So, for influences, we go, who do you think you are? And we'll go for recognized for as social celebrity. You have specialization. I can't spell. In deception, persuasion, or streetwise. Excuse me, I have something in my throat and it's annoying me. So we got that. Except that's not an influence. That's I just realized that's not an influence. That's your origin. So we're gonna cut that. We're gonna put that in. Did I really just do it? Haha. And of course, oh no, it works perfectly. Okay. It just wants it to be longer. Okay. So we've got that. And that's it. So we're good with the origin. Let's choose a role. And like I said before, I'm not a huge fan of the roles being tied to color spectrum, because even in Power Rangers, while there are some kind of unifying things for each role in the spectrum, they're not universal enough that I think we can classify that every single every single Blue Ranger is going to be tech savvy, because Sky was the Blue SPD Ranger, and he wasn't really tech savvy at all. He was just the second in command, which is another aspect of the Blue Ranger that tends to be true, but doesn't show up in here. So I'm going to be using my personal names for them. I have a video called Fixing the Power Rangers. There's 2 of them, or Fixing the Power Rangers RPG, where I just give different names to the roles so that they're not tied to the color spectrum. And then I also give suggested spectrum colors for each of the origins, because I think it just works better if you tie the role to their origin instead of, or the color to their origin instead of the role. So that being said, for the roles, I still like so the Green Ranger in the Power Rangers RPG, which I call the Outsider, is designed to effectively be a 6th Ranger. I mentioned in my last video, 6 Rangers are effectively... Please excuse me. 6 Rangers are effectively Rangers that show up partway through this season. They don't always have to be the 6th Ranger, but they are Rangers that don't show up in the first couple of episodes. And the Green Ranger is really... or the outsider role is what I call them, is really designed to exemplify specifically how the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger worked, because the Mighty Morphin Green Ranger was often fighting on their own. Even after they joined the team, they're often fighting on their own, and tended to come to battle late and things like that. The reason for that was, in Super Sentai, Burai, who is the Dragon Ranger in Super Sentai, he actually, the story of Super Sentai is the 5 Rangers were basically put in like cryogenic tubes, because they fought Rita, thousands of years ago, and then when she got trapped in the space dumpster, they went into cryo sleep, and then they wake up in the modern times. Well, Burai was in a different cave, and was woken up but by Rita separately, and worked for Rita for a little bit, and she was the witch Bandora in that. And what happens is his stasis chamber or whatever got damaged due to a cave-in, and so he technically died. But as long as he's in the cave, he doesn't age or anything. But as long as he's outside the cave, he has a limited amount of time to live before he just dies. And that's why in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Tommy eventually loses his powers and has to give them back, or give them to Jason. The Red Ranger gets the dragon shield and everything like that. So, so the Green Ranger is almost designed to be, the Green Ranger role, or the outsider role as I call them, is almost designed to be a 6th Ranger, which is perfectly fine. And again, I like Green Ranger. My last character, we called them the Green Ranger just because I like green. So let's start. Let's start with the things that they have here. So the role is going to be the outsider. And I still can't type. And again, we can go green, just so people that aren't familiar with my videos know what I'm talking about. And then we choose, we add our essence scores. So they do get +2 to strength, so it brings us up to a 3. And +1 to speed, which is good. I like having speed. And then the skill ranks, we get a might, conditioning, and then either finesse or initiative. And I think we're going to make this a more strength-based character. Again, they're popular because of their strength. Fun fact, baseball, not generally like a big, we're going to be super, super strong. But, I mean, we all know about the steroid scandals and stuff like that. Being strong does help. Being fast is also useful, so having both strength and speed is very nice. So we do get conditioning. We get might, and might is actually what you use to attack if you're making strength-based attacks, so that's cool. And then for speed, we can choose either finesse or initiative. Again, I like having training initiative because I like going first as much as possible. And I don't think we're going to be using a ton of finesse for this character, so I'm going to go with initiative for that. And then grid equipment, we can just go in here and give wrist communicator, power morpher, blade blaster. We're still just using the equipment and stuff that they do here, and that's all they get is power, wrist communicator, power morpher, blade blaster. Something you guys might realize is, well, wait a minute, the last character also got a power weapon. Why doesn't this one get one? Well, we'll deal with that in a second here. But they actually have a specific unique power weapon, again meant to mimic the Green Ranger with their Dragon Dagger. So we will deal with the unique weapon that they get, because we get to do cool stuff with it. It's one of the reasons I wanted to make an outsider, because their weapon turns into something really cool. So do that in a second. First, we need to go with our powers. We do have a power. It's called Solo Strike. Basically, by making only a single attack against an adjacent target, which is also not adjacent to any of your allies, you may apply the dice shift listed on the table above. Hit or miss, you may not make any other attacks in the round in which you attempt a solo strike. So solo strike is interesting in the idea that it kind of works if we're talking if we're talking D&D. It actually kind of works like the swashbuckler rogues. One of their abilities that basically gives them the ability to get sneak attack when there are no allies present. Basically, it requires that enemy to be next to no other enemies. This one, it just requires none of your ranger allies to be next to an enemy. And you can only make a single attack, which at first level is not that big a deal. But eventually, the Green Ranger gets extra attack, which means you can make 2 attacks. So the solo strike turns into a choice, as I've said many, many times before. Bad game design gives you... good game design gives you choices. Bad game design gives you right answers. So solo strike... at level 1 is going to effectively be a right answer, because you can only make 1 attack at that point anyway, unless you take a general perk or something that gives you extra attacks, or your weapon gives you extra attacks. But for the most part, solo strike is going to be a right answer. But as soon as you hit level 5, then it becomes a choice. And I'm actually perfectly fine with early on being something that you rely on heavily, and then as you gain more abilities, you start realizing that, well, this can be useful, but there's other things that can be useful as well. And I like... I don't think that's a bad game design thing. I think that's a good game design thing, because it gets you familiar with using a kind of unique power, and then they go, by the way, you still have this unique power, but you have other things you can do too, and now you have to kind of make the decision of, now that you're really comfortable using it, do I always want to use it? Do I want to try something else? I think that's a great way to introduce new things and increase power levels without them becoming overwhelming. You know, you don't always have to give them something that they're always going to use. Or when something is first introduced, it doesn't always have to be limited in scope in some way. You can have something that is just used heavily until you reach, a higher level, and then you get choices. Both of those are perfectly fine. So that's solo strike. And then the other thing you get at first level is called unique weapon. You're given a special unique power weapon at first level. This weapon has a special ability attached to it, but also a risk of some kind. At first level, you may choose or roll randomly from the following table to create the different aspects of your Green Ranger unique weapon, or in this case, Outsider unique weapon. So there are 3 columns, each with 4 options. First is type of weapon, which is skill used. Second is special ability. Third is item risk. So basically, the first one is going to decide which skill that you use. And because we've already kind of decided this is going to be a might-based character, I'm going to ignore ranged weapon and small melee, which would be targeting or finesse. So this could be a ranged weapon, which would be kind of cool. But I like the idea of us being able to use might for it. Range weapons do, for solo strike specifically, do add some kind of interesting tactical choices, because again, by making only a single attack against an adjacent. Solo strike specifically has to be an adjacent target, which is also not. So if you were to do a ranged weapon, making a ranged attack when you're adjacent to an enemy gives you a snack. Solo strike is a little bit more designed to be melee based. That might be something that, because again, you can have a range. And again, that kind of right then it will give you a choice, so that solo strike isn't always the right answer. If you chose or you rolled the ranged weapon one, then you get the idea of, well, you could go in and all Power Rangers can make martial arts attacks, which can be either might or finesse. And they're going to do similar damage to your power weapons in general, maybe 1 point less. But if you go with ranged weapon, then you already have a choice of, well, do I want to get up close and attack, or do I want to stay far back and use my ranged weapon? Solo strike is only for close combat. So again, even right there is some choice depending on the weapon. I'm going to choose the first one, and then we're going to roll for the other ones. So I'm getting my... You know what? No. We're going to roll for all of them. And we're just going to see. The only one that I'm not going to use is the small melee, because we just did that. So if I roll a 2, we're going to redo it. But for the rest, we're actually just going to roll here. So we got a 2, so I'm going to re-roll that. And a 4. So 4 is two-handed melee might, which works perfectly for me. So we are going to go down here. And we could go here and just go, all right, so we're going to go power weapon. Range is reach, because it's a melee weapon. Hands is 2, it's a two-handed. And traits, right now, we don't really have any traits other than its attack uses might. So we've got that. Next, for its special ability, let's go ahead and roll. 3. The special ability gains an upshift of 2 when attacking targets at least 3 sizes larger. So this particular weapon gets shift up 2 for 3 sizes larger. Okay. So you're going to put that there. I'm probably going to list all of this in the inventory, or even maybe just put it in the notes section to make this easier, because this doesn't look good at all. And if you were to print this out, you wouldn't be able to read that at all. So we've got that, and then the final thing. So what that means is this weapon is kind of designed to be able to almost be able to fight large monsters on the ground. And they are, this character is going to be kind of built for, I'm gonna take on the big guy on my own. And you can combine that shift with solo strike to get a lot of upshifts, to the point where if you have a pretty decent might score, you might actually be getting to the point where you auto crit by using those two things. So that in and of itself, I think, is pretty cool and interesting. That also means if you're ever doing like crossover things, and you're dealing with Transformers, if a really big Decepticon comes over, this particular character is going to go, I got this, shunk, and just totally take them out. So, final thing we need to roll for is the item risk. What makes this difficult? So we got another 3. And this is does not morph with user. It always exists in a physical state. So I think I am going to go back to notes here. And we're going to go power weapon. So it's two-handed might. Twi-handed. Two-handed might. Gains up shift 2 against target 3 sizes larger plus. And then doesn't morph with user. So this is our power weapon. Now, again, all of those are really generic terms. It's a two-handed might-based weapon. The upshift of 2 against target doesn't actually define the weapon at all. It's just mechanics. And then doesn't morph with user. Again, doesn't change anything. So we can actually decide exactly what kind of weapon this is going to be. And I think the doesn't morph with user thing, for me personally, makes it that much more interesting because that means that, especially with a large two-handed weapon, that means that if they want to use this, because it doesn't morph with them, they need to have a way to kind of explain why they have this thing with them when they are walking around. In my in Power Rangers Night Sentinels, which was my MIDI campaign, the White Ranger who used the Outsider role, played by the amazing Dale Kingsmill, her weapon was actually a glaive that was actually a fountain pen that could kind of shrink and grow. And so when she was unmorphed, she would actually keep the pen behind her ear. And when she was morphed, she actually had a place in her helmet where she could stow the smaller version of the pen. And then she would take it out and it would actually grow into a large glaive and she could attack with it. And that was really cool. We really enjoyed that. So for this one, I think this could be fun. It's a because we've decided they're a baseball player. I think it would be cool if they had a sword, okay. But while it was sheathed, the sheath made it look kind of like a baseball bat. With a for those of you who don't know, when you are practicing your swing and timing things, there are these weights that you can actually put on the bat that they go over. If you're looking at the bat like this, and this is the part that you hold with the pommel on it, and then the wide part's out here, what you do is they're just rings that you put on, and they just make the bat heavier. And the reason that you do that is when you're timing the swing, because it's heavier. When you actually get up to bat, you go and you just kind of tap them on the pommel and they fall off, and so the bat feels significantly lighter, which improves your swing speed. So if when the sword is sheathed, it actually looks like a bat with one of those things on, he can kind of carry it around, and just he wouldn't use it in baseball games because that would be an unfair advantage and that wouldn't be a very Power Ranger-y thing to do. But he'll use it for, like, he'll say this, oh, it's just for timing and I always keep it around, and and he'll be a star hitter. So I think that would be really cool, and it will still be a two-handed weapon. I would probably say when he unsheaths it as a Power Ranger, it looks a little different, and maybe the cross guard changes, or the guard changes a little bit, and the blade itself is longer than the length of the bat, because a bat technically is used two-handed, but if it's going to be something that attacks giant creatures, I think this needs to be like Claymore-sized weapon. So yeah, I like that. I think that's cool. If you ever watched, I don't think they really did it in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, except in the intro they kind of show it, but in Zyuranger, the Sentai version, all of them had weapons that would transform into their power weapons. And so I think, well, yes, it doesn't morph with the user. It always exists in a physical state. It does say it always exists in a physical state. It doesn't say that it doesn't complete, it can't change in some way. And I think that would be almost necessary for something like this, to avoid things going around, especially since it's a big two-handed thing. If it was something smaller, you could hide it in a backpack or something. With it being that big, I'm going to say when it morphs, it changes a little bit. So it looks exactly like a bat when it's unmorphed, and you can still unsheath it and everything and use it as a sword. But when it morphs, it actually looks like a Power Rangers weapon. So that's what we'll do. And so we're going to call it the Power Bat Blade. Power Bat Blade. Not the most clever thing, but I think it's cool. And yeah, and then we just have to give it, like, these are the unique weapon traits, and then we just have to decide how much damage it does, which I think we'll go to the equipment when we're done with all this. We'll go to the equipment section, just pick out a weapon that's kind of similar to, just go, oh, okay, then we'll do that. Again, you can design everything from scratch, but it's a little bit easier. So so that is the role in its entirety. And then we can get rid of this. We will have like the damage and everything once we build the equipment section. We'll be done there. And I should also put in Green Ranger armor. They have light and medium armor, so we're just gonna go medium armor. And when they morph, medium armor gives us +2 toughness. And that's all we're going to do is medium armor there. So just so we can remember that that's a thing that we have. So yeah, let's do some influences. So again, the influences that exist in the core book: artisan, caretaker, community helper, small town roots, martial artist, nomad, not from around here, student, survivor, teacher. I think... With them being a Six Ranger archetype, it's easy to go, well, not from around here. And go with that because, again, if this is going to be a Sixth Ranger style character, it would make sense for them to not be around here because that's why they weren't here in the beginning of the thing. I'm going to avoid that just because this could be fun. And it kind of mimics what happened to Tommy. We'll go with teacher is one of their influences. So this is actually a teacher at this school. And this, they do say you may have been a professor at a college, a TA at your high school, an extracurricular activities instructor, or a tutor for fellow students. So we can even go, all right, so this, I think this is going to make it even cooler. So the reason this character is popular is because they're actually the baseball coach. So instead of being a baseball player, they're the baseball coach, and that's where teacher comes from. And so they're always carrying around their weighted bat because they use it as a teaching aid and stuff like that. And they're always known for that. And so now we know why they always have this bat. Yeah, I love that. So influence perk. When a fellow Power Ranger must make a non-combat skill check, you may lend assistance with an additional edge. If the skill is one in which you have specialized, you may lend assistance with 2 additional edges. But the task takes twice as long to accomplish as you're teaching how to do it. Now, I have to look at this again because it's saying multiple edges, and I didn't think you could do multiple edges. I might be wrong here. So we're gonna, I'm actually going to look at, we have essence points and skills and all that. Do I have to go to the combat section? Using skills. Critical success, edge, snag, or both. When you have an edge, you roll a second d20 and choose the higher of the 2 d20s. Snag, you're lower. Multiple applications of either aren't counted unless a purpose strictly allows you to have an extra edge. So I guess the extra edge just means you can roll 3d to 20. Doesn't really explain it super well here. Because it just says multiple applications of either aren't counted unless a perk specifically allows you to have an extra edge. Otherwise, if you have two sources of edge or snags from different sources, you still only roll one additional d20. So yeah, it sounds like you would roll 3 d20 instead of 2 and take the higher of them. Anytime when you would have edge and a snag on a roll, you have neither, and you roll 1 d20 like a normal skill roll. So edge and snags cancel each other out. Yeah, so let's go back to influences and get our teacher. So we have teacher. It's going to be non-combat lend assistance. I cannot spell assistance. Extra edge. If specialized, 2 extra edges. Okay, so we've got that. And then our second one. I'm leaning towards small town roots. So small town, you come from a simple life at a small town in a remote area that people rarely leave. So, kind of building this character up. They came from a small town. They were the best baseball player. They went to college on a scholarship. They got into the minor leagues, and something happened that got them washed out. Let's say, because I hate the idea of injury. So let's say it wasn't that they were forced out. Let's say that they chose. Let's say they're doing well in the minor leagues. It was looking like they were going to get up to the majors soon, but they just realized that this wasn't the life that they wanted to leave. Just always being somewhere, and always being on the road and always working and stuff like that. And so they made the decision that no. They got an education degree when they were in college, and so they decided, I'm going to become a teacher. And so they start out in their small town. They don't have anything, so they go to Angel Grove, which is where everything is set for this, and they become the baseball coach, and they teach. I don't know. Let's say that they teach math, because I like math. So we'll go with that. They teach math, and they coach the baseball team. So I like that. So we're gonna go small town roots, and then once per session. Ask GM which option is better for you. So yeah, we've got those. Now we need to choose a hang up. And again, it's technically the second one that is your hang up. But we can decide that either one of these is the second one. Yes, technically teacher is listed first, but that's where some of the kind of uniqueness from the system comes from, is in some of the strategies. So the hang up for small town roots: when you meet someone new with whom you don't share an influence, you suffer a snag on your first social test with them. Okay, so you're just not good at meeting new people. I don't think that fits very well for a teacher. So let's see what the teacher one is. You cannot resist a teaching moment. And insist on showing others how it's done before allowing them to try on their own. In any non-combat situation in which you have more skill than a team member, you will force yourself into doing the task first, even if strategically or socially unsound. I like this hang up, especially if we're imagining this person as he was a professional baseball player. And he, even in the minors, you make a decent amount of money. A lot more than minimum wage, just put it that way. You're not the mega millionaires that that professional athletes are, but you still make a decent amount of money. You're making well over minimum wage. And I actually kind of like the idea that while he didn't get to the majors, he does have this kind of idea of like, I was going to the majors and I chose to do this. So that little bit of arrogance, I like that. So we're gonna put that for the hang up. So we're gonna go, and I'm just gonna copy paste this because it's easier and you guys don't have to watch how badly I type. And then boop, boop. Really? I swear it is not this hard. Okay. All right. So we got that done. So now, again, we have 12 more things that we can put in. Because they are a teacher, I want to have at least 4 smarts. So that's 4 of them. Because it's going to be strength, I think I'm going to put another 3 in there. So it brings us to 7. So we should have 5 left. Speed, I want to at least have a 3 in that. So there's this 3 left, and we can put 3 in social. Yeah, I think we could do that. And now we need to choose our skills. So we've got 6 strength. We have... Why do I have athletics? I shouldn't have athletics chosen. Because I have might and conditioning. We've already got 2 here from strength already having 2. So I think we're going to put 2 more there. Let's put 2 there as well. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's everything. So they should have decent athletic score, and I think having a decent might score as well, so they can make some decent attacks, I think makes sense. That also means on their solo strike at level 1, they're going to be going a D8. But if it's a solo strike against a large foe, they're already at the D12 level. And they just need a specialization in something to be rolling some crazy, crazy dice. So we like that. For speed, I think acrobatics, because again, being a baseball player, you do have a little bit, you're running around bases and stuff like that, and fielding and other things like that. So there is some acrobatics to that. Finesse could also be argued as well. And then we have targeting here. I think I'm going to put 2 into targeting because a lot of people, if you don't play baseball, might not realize. Well, actually, no. If they are mostly a hitter, again, targeting is technically using a firearm or something like that. But I'm going to explain it this way because it's my character, and that's the way I wanted to do it. So with targeting, in baseball, especially for hitters, you actually are going to kind of aim where you want the ball to go based on the field position of everyone, where the strong and weak players are and where the players on the bases are. And you kind of control that by when you start your swing, because if you're further in your swing when you hit the ball, it's going to pull more towards, like if you're right-handed like me, it's going to pull more towards left field, where if you wait and you hit it earlier in your swing, it's going to pull more towards right field. And so you can control the kind of the area you're going, and then depending on how you swing, if you do a level swing, it's going to make line drives. If you kind of swing under it, you're going to do fly balls, and if you swing down into it, you're going to make grounders. And so by combining the 3 things, also with kind of the position of the pitch and how everything is working, you really can kind of guess and and aim where you want the ball to go. So I think it would make sense for him to have a targeting influence. And we already have initiative at 2, so that's all we have. So I can't actually put anything into acrobatics. So I think that would kind of make sense. And it also means anytime he uses his blade blaster, he can and do cool stuff. So we got that. For science, I don't know why I have science clicked as well. I must have been messing with this sheet and accidentally saved it with those things on. So for smarts, I think because the smarts is gonna kind of be built into his. I'm actually gonna go to skills real quick here because I want to check the smart skills. So I want to check some of the computer. So technology, science. I think I'm going to choose science at a D4 with a specialization in math. Because, I mean, technically, math is such an interesting field that you could technically put it into a bunch of different things. But I think science makes the most sense. We're going to math because he teaches math. So that's 3, and then we need one more thing. I think giving him some alertness. Because, again, that's a baseball thing. You have to be alert when stuff is going on. You have to know what's going on in the field, watching for people stealing, stuff like that. Again, I talk about baseball a lot because it is my favorite sport. I have a good friend that hates baseball. I think it's super, super boring. Thinks softball is significantly superior. I think they're 100% wrong. But whatever. I love baseball. So we got that. And then for social, I think persuasion, from a teaching perspective, persuasion is very, very useful. I think streetwise is also useful for a teacher to just kind of understand how, the popular kids work and everything like that. We'll give them a point in deception. I know some teachers that lie that aren't horrible people. They just have to lie every so often. So, and again, I've mentioned before, you can't really hold a job if you can't tell a lie. Doesn't mean that you're a dishonest person. There's just certain situations where you're not allowed to tell the truth. So I think all teachers have a little bit of ability to lie. So that gives us all of our stuff. Let's get our stuff. So essence is 6. Perks is nothing right now. Armor is 2. So morphed, they have a toughness of 18. Unmorphed, they have a toughness of 16. 3, 0, 0. This doesn't change at all. 4, 0, 0. That doesn't change at all. And then 3, 0, 0. That doesn't change. And then our health, because of our, we have 1 point in conditioning, our health goes up to 2. Cool, interesting. That's our character. And then we just need to just finalize the bat blade. So yeah, let's go to the equipment section real quick. And again, you can do whatever you want with this. You don't have to choose something that already exists. However, it is a little bit easier if you start with something that already exists, just to get an idea of what it can do. So I'm going to look for something that already has 2-handed, just to get an idea for damage. Everything 2-handed is all dual wielding. So Golden Power Staff is 2-handed, and it does stun too. And this is going to be a storage, so it's going to do sharp damage. It's looking like... I think with it being a Green Ranger and the fact that it can fight big creatures, we're going to go... Its normal effect is sharp 2. And then it already has some alternate effects in the idea that it can 3 sizes larger, so I don't think we need to do too many alternate effects. I'm trying to see, most of the power weapons have at least one alternate effect. And because this is a big giant sword, I'm trying to see, I don't think they really have a... yeah, they don't really have a giant kind of great sword for any of the kind of example stuff they have in here. Interesting. So let's come up with one alternate effect for it. So with it being a big sword, what cool stuff could we get it to do? We could have a double attack, but that doesn't really feel right for a giant great sword. Let's look at... let's look at some of the stuff that can do. So, anti-tank, armor-piercing, amphibious, aquatic, area. Oh! Area could be cool. Yeah, we could do... yeah, for an alternate effect, so we'll go downshift 1. And I'm not going to be able to put it in the tiny little alternate effects thing, so see notes. So, the other thing it does is alt effect. The other thing it does is it, let's go down, shift 1, I think would make the most sense. Let's look. Yeah, so we'll, to kind of copy from the Lunar Lance, we're going to go 1 time per encounter. Downshift 1 for attack against up to 3 targets, all adjacent to you. So basically he can make a big swing, but all 3 targets have to be adjacent. And it's a 1 time per encounter. Because I think I might make that twice per encounter. No, let's leave it at 1, and then this would be something that I would definitely playtest. But it makes sense for this, for the bat blade, that he can just shoom and make a big wide swing with it, because that is a very baseball thing. And it gives him something he wouldn't be able to use solo strike because it attacks, other characters. I like this. I think it looks interesting and fun. And that's our level 1 character. Like, all we had to do was do that. And I think it's cool and interesting and fun. And there we go. However, started at level 1. Now, we're going to bump it up to 5. Normally, you would not be doing 5 levels all at the same time. But, again, this is how it goes. So I guess I should put the solo strike initially at level 1 was upshift 1. When we get to 5th, it's still upshift 1. So we're gonna go solo strike upshift 1. So we know what that is. At level 6, it goes to an upshift 2. The other things that happen, every level we get some boosts. So, and I forgot to put personal power in as well. So we can just do that now. For 5th level, you have 4 personal power. And you regenerate 3 per day. So personal power, and then I'm just going to put in notes probably. There we go. Boom, boom. So you generate 3 personal power per day. Cool. We got that. So, Every time you level up, you increase certain things. So at level 2, we increase speed by 1, so we'll go 4. At level 3, we increase social by 1, so that'll go 4. At level 4, we increase smarts by 1, so that'll turn us to 5. And then at 5th level, we increase strength by 1, so that'll turn us to 7. And that means each one of these gets an additional skill or gets an additional skill or specialization. Wow, I don't know why that was that hard. So I think we need to have a specialization in might that deals with the sword. So we're gonna for traits. I guess we never actually gave it traits beyond the two-handed one. Ballistic blunt. I think we're just gonna call it sharp. So yeah, it's if we go back down to here, traits is two-handed sharp. Yeah, that's all we really need for that. So we're gonna be specializations. Athletics, brawn. I just want to see how they do it in here. So we could do a specialization into sharp weapons, but I think we're gonna specifically go power weapons, because that's one of the things that they mention here. This is the ability to wield a heavier, possibly two-handed power weapon manifested for Power Rangers by the Morphing Grid. So we're specifically going to say, no, he's specialized in his power weapon. So that's what we do with our additional strength here. For our speed, we could get a specialization in something. I think what I would like... Because, so fun fact, if you do anything and you don't have any skill in it, you always roll with a snag. So, I think... Yeah, I think being a ranger, let's give him some acrobatics now, because we already have the targeting and initiative and everything. It's one of the reasons I like to have training and initiative, because I don't like rolling initiative with a snag. For smarts, we have science, math, survival, technology. I think, this just coming from my experience in high school, because I not only was I a band and a theater geek, but I was also the assistant director of the fall musical my senior year. I got to know quite a few of the teachers pretty well, and the science teachers in general tended to all be kind of tech geeks, because so many other teachers in the school couldn't understand computers at all. So I'll go tech. I mean, he's math, but science, math, very similar. You use a lot of math and science. And then for social, I have deception, persuasion, streetwise. I think you just get better at persuasion. I don't think I want to put a specialization. So that's how we did to do that for leveling those up. And then we start getting things. The first thing you get at second level is called your survival boon. And this is the other thing that's really cool for... I'm going to use that. Survival boon. So you get to choose something that makes you unique. So Green Rangers need to have an extra sense of self-protection that the other Rangers aren't offered because of the time they spend fighting on their own. So the 5 different things you can do, or you can choose, and you choose one now, and then you can actually choose up to 2 more as you get to higher levels. So that's kind of cool. So one of them is 360 awareness. You can't be surprised. You get a +1 to all your alertness and an upshift to alertness and initiative rolls. That could be fun. Enhanced Shell. This is basically the Green Ranger shield, which I'm a huge fan of. Like, I love the Green Ranger shield, but it just gives you a +1 to toughness. Like a Shadow, and it gives you an edge on all infiltration tests. Because we don't have infiltration, that would mean we can roll infiltration without a snag, which is nice. Move Like a Song. The first attack that targets you each round has a snag. If that attack already has a snag, it automatically misses instead. That could be very, very useful. And then Savant. You have a knack for trying anything and getting it right. If you don't have any levels in a skill, you can always try a skill check using a D2 as your skill level. You must still purchase the D2 level. So Savant, I think Savant works really well because they're a teacher. And they just tend to have, like... I think it might fit in a little bit with how... Like, they went to they went to college on a scholarship, but they were just so good at studies in general, which is how they were able to get their degree. And then after spending quite a few years in the majors, not having used the education degree at all, or the minors, they can kind of fall back and just kind of fall into it. So I think I like the idea of them being a savant. So I'm going to go here. I don't know why there's all these little lines here, but we're going to go savant, which is always try skill check using D2. So we have that. Boom. That's one of our powers. So that's our survival boom. Like I said, you can get additional ones as you level up, but I think that one works pretty cool. Third Ranger, or the third level, you get your Zord. So we need to choose the Zord that they have. So we'll come back to the Zord in a second because that's going to take a little bit more time. And then at fourth level, they get a general perk. We'll choose that in just a second. Fifth level, they get extra attacks. So we are going to put in here extra attack. And that's only while morphed. So while morphed. M-O-R-P-H-E-D. So extra attack while morphed. So we got that. So let's go to the perk section and let's choose a perk for this character. So again, there are 3 different kinds of perks that you can get. You have general perks, you have Zord perks, and then you have what are called grid powers, which is effectively another. They all are technically the equivalent of feats from DnD. They just affect different things. Obviously, Zord perks are going to affect your Zord. General perks are going to affect you personally, and they're perks that anyone can choose. Grid powers tend to be specifically designed for your morphed form. So, that being said, let's look at some of the perks. So one of them could be Athlete's Grace, which basically increases speed by 5. Standing up from prone only costs 5 feet of movement instead of half your movement. And climbing doesn't have your movement type. So that could be something. Though for a baseball player, I don't see climbing being a really big thing. The other things kind of make sense for a baseball player. Let's see what other kind of interesting stuff. Educated is one. Gain fluency in one language of your choice. We forgot to add an additional language. We'll say that he learned, just because it's massively useful in the U.S., Spanish, I think, is the second most spoken language in the U.S. So he already speaks Spanish, which, again, massively, massively useful. But educated, you gain fluency in a language, add an additional story point to your team's pool each game session. That's very nice. And may act as though specialized in any smart skill once per day. So that could be kind of cool. Um, Expertise allows you to basically reroll ones on skill dice, which is nice. We could also go extra grid power, which would basically give us. Normally, you don't get a grid power until I think level 6. So if we took that at level 4, we basically sacrifice one of our general perks to get a grid power right away, which could be cool. Fast would be really good. You get a upshift 2 bonus to initiative tests, and your movement is increased by 10 feet. That feels like a very baseball thing. And it would work really well dealing with his solo strike, being able to get to enemies faster. Garage Band, that would be cool. Could go Giant Killer to fit with the... Giant Killer basically gives you a shift, an upshift for anyone 2 sizes larger, which would add on to the upshift from the weapon. And then you get an edge on any attack roll made to hit targets more than 5 size classes larger than you. So if you are facing monsters from Rita on your own, that could be really cool. And I would almost say if we went with Giant Killer, that would be something where we would have a Zord that can effectively pilot itself, kind of like the Dragon Zord, where Tommy never was in the Dragon Zord. He just used his flute to tell it what to do. So I think Giant Killer, that could be a really interesting character type. We could give them ninja powers. A Percival maximum of 4. Yeah, we could go ninja powers. And basically that's, in the new book, they call this a form. That would be kind of cool. I don't think we want to go ninja just yet. So touch using F-shift 1. So supercharged essence, we could choose supercharged essence for strength, and that would mean all skills attached to strength would be an upshift 1, which would be very, very nice. This is kind of cool. So Righteous Heart. You're immune to fear-causing effects, and then while morph, you can spend a free action to gain resistance to any one damage type of damage, and the resistance lasts until the end of your next turn. And that can be every turn you can get a resistance to damage, which I think would be kind of interesting for this character. And I think I kind of like the idea of Righteous Heart because, again, he decided to go away from making lots of money to become a teacher, and again, it was because he didn't like that. He wanted to, educate and be around real people and stuff like that. So I think I like that idea of Righteous Heart. So let's go here. So perks, we're gonna go right heart, and that's going to be immune to fear causing effects, to deer causing effects. Wow, I cannot type in any way, shape, or form. Effects. And while morphed, spend a free action to gain resistance to any one type damage till end of next turn. Is this for resistance? There we go. To any, there we go. So, cool perk, me likey. And now we need to define our Zord. So we're going to go to Zords. And again, to make things easier, we're going to start with a Zord that already exists and then make some modifications to it. Just because it's just easy, significantly easier. So baseline Zord statistics. Size is huge. Movement is 40. Health is 6. So this is our baseline Zord. And then strength 6. Speed 4. There's no smarts or social. Toughness is... Do they have toughness here? Yeah, toughness is 7. Oops. 17. Evasion is 14. And then skills. Brawn D6. Conditioning 3. Which is where they get their health from. Driving autopilot D2. And initiative D6. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I guess that's for another skill if we had it. And then melee weapon attack. So they have a melee weapon that uses driving skill. All of your attacks use driving, and then a ranged weapon, retained, that works too. Range is 10 feet. Effect 2 blunt/sharp. We'll figure out which one of those in a second. Ranged is 50, 120 feet. And it is 2 Really? Gee. All right, and we'll figure out which energy type it is in a little bit. So that's effectively our Zord, and that's all the base stuff. Now, the spectrum-based Zord features. They tie these. They tie these to the your role, and again, the outsider is the green, so it gets an additional attack type. Is one of their features. So we're gonna go additional attack type, and we'll figure that out in a second. Additional attack type. We're good with that. And then and there are also some automatic Zord features. So so depending on the type of Zords they can have additional features. So if you had Zords that are like the Battleborgs, they get extra attack and Martial Zord. The Dinozords get Combiner and Heavy Chassis. The Mega Vehicle Zords get Combiner and 0G. So this would be something that we would choose as part of the team. Again, because we are kind of basing this on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'm just going to go with the Dinozords. So this also gets Combiner and Heavy Chassis. And we'll figure out what that is in just a second, because we will list those features. So additional attack type is the first thing we have. You may choose to add either a basic melee or ranged attack to your Zord using the baseline Zord attack statistics and choosing the details. Apparently... apparently you're only supposed to have one of these, I guess. I don't know. So I have an additional attack. So we're going to have one melee and one ranged. And so that's what the additional attack type means. Combiner just means exactly that. It just means that you can make a Megazord. So that's perfectly fine. And then Heavy Chassis, increase the Zord strength by 1 and give the Zord 1 additional health. So strength goes up to 7. And health goes up to 7. That does mean, just like your regular Rangers, your total score here should also increase here. So we already have Bronze 6, Conditioning 3. So that would normally give us 6. we are also going to add one more because our strength score increased. So I think I like the idea of having it have at least one thing in mind, and that also means our toughness defense goes up by 1 as well, because toughness is based on strength. So we've got that. So that's basically our Zord. Now we just need to kind of define things. So if this is going to be a Dinozord, or actually, so yeah, these are all. I was thinking about maybe having it be a Battleborg instead, but that would mean all the characters had to be Battleborgs. So no, we're going to call it Dinozord. So we need to pick a dinosaur for this particular character. Now again, normally the Green Ranger has the Dragon Zord, which for those of you wondering, dragons are not dinosaurs. Dragons are not real creatures, but it fit and it was cool. So as far as our character, I'd like something that kind of mimics the character we have. They have this baseball thing that turns into a big, massive sword. So I actually would like something that we could give something kind of sword-like. Like I'm thinking more that as it levels up, it eventually gets the alternate form where kind of like the Red Dragon Thunder Zord, it could turn into a humanoid form, because I like that. You know what? No. Let's say that these particular characters all have Battleborgs, so that's going to change things to extra attack and martial Zord, and it also means that it can't combine. So we're going to say that all of them have Battleborgs, because I just think it fits better with this particular character to have a more humanoid. And then their melee weapon is going to be... ignore what I'm saying. We're going to go Combiner, Heavy. We're going to stick with what I said before. I know I'm being really indecisive, but forget it. So thinking of dinosaurs that would be cool. Obviously, you know, the T-Rex, really iconic, and other things like that. I think this would be kind of cool if it was a raptor. So call it a Raptor Zord. Because I still like the kind of, you know, bipedal style thing. And then its melee weapon is just going to be... we're going to call it Tail Blade. And what it does is its tail is an actual blade. So that's going to turn you to 2 sharp. And then its ranged weapon is going to be eye beams. And so it normally can go up and just kind of spin around and slash you with its tail, or it can shoot beams out of its eyes. And so that's how our Raptor Zord works. As far as how it combines, that would be something we'd need to talk about with the other Rangers. But that gives us everything that we need. So we have a tail blade and an eye beam, and that's cool. And other than that, like that is how difficult it is to build a Zord. Not incredibly difficult. If you just use the base Zord statistics. And apparently, I'm gonna go back. You choose type Ranger team there's their tail from, additional Zord features, and the initial there's 6 blah 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 blah. Zord begin with a set static block, add 1 Zord feature from the Ranger Spectrum color, and then apply the standard Zord features from the type of Ranger team players want to know. So I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anything as far as the Zords are concerned. So yeah, we do exactly that. They don't say anything about limiting to one thing. And again, the Power Rangers core book is not written super well. It's not that it's a bad book. It's just they don't explain things 100%. Well, so Gaining health. Zord grows with every 5th level gained by their Power Ranger. Different from the Zord features that the Power Rangers gain as they increase level. These Zord is linked to Power Ranger. Gains one of the following Ranger's choice at 5th level. So I can get +1 health, +1 armor, 10 feet to move with tight, and then 1 dice level to driving skill, 1 dice level to initiative skill, or 1 damage to 1 attack to the type. So because we're 5th level, I think I like the idea with it being a raptor to just add 10 to its movement, so it can now do 50, and that'll be good. So call to action. Call to action and recall for repairs. So yeah, that's just the call for action, then recall for repairs. So that's the stuff you don't have to do. I think we've got everything we need here. So yeah, this is what we're gonna do for right now. I might not be building the Zord exactly correctly because I didn't do a ton of research into building Zords, but I think we're good. So going back to the top, and let's give this guy a name. This is going to be let's say Thomas, to reference Tommy. Bannock. I have no idea where the name Bannock came from, but it sounds like a name, and it could be Mr. Bannock for stuff like that. So yeah, this is our character. You know, not too bad. We can kind of repeat the attack that we have listed here. Like we could put the bat blade up here. We could put the martial arts stuff up here too if you want to. You don't need to, but it makes it easier. But yeah, so back here. So yeah, that is our teacher, our popular teacher character, which I think is kind of cool and interesting. Anyway, so kind of final wrap up on the character itself. Like I said, I think it's a cool character. We can look at it again. I think it's a cool character. Very much strength based, decent toughness and everything like that. It's got a raptor for a Zord. And as we built it, you know, again, we based everything on the initial character idea that we didn't have when we first started creating it, but it developed as we chose different things. And I think that's an important part of any role-playing game, but specifically Power Rangers, is to have that kind of core concept in there so that when you make decisions, all of it kind of works. So anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to turn notifications on. All those things are super important in the comments down below. Since this is the first time we built a Zord, what would your Zord be? You know, would you, if it was a dinosaur, what dinosaur would it be? You know, if it's a different, like what is your favorite kind of Zord that you would want your Ranger to have? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, this is all for me today, and I will see you guys in the next time, all right? Bye-bye.